Hi, I'm Dana, and I've definitely made videos about anxiety sort of in general before, as well as like anxiety related specifically to being autistic. But there's a certain type that I want to talk about due to my own experiences that you're going to hear about, because I feel like the therapists that I've had, and I also got sent to CBT like 3 or 4 times, they so often wanted to convince me that my anxiety was silly and unnecessary, and I was anxious for no reason. Like it's just me being silly. I just need to get past it and then everything will be all right, you know? So I had 2 different therapists that I actually saw for like a more prolonged amount of time, and I do feel like I benefited from seeing them, but they were also specifically trying to help me with my anxiety, and they didn't. And with both of them, there were so many moments that they would ask me like, what am I anxious about? And I would either tell them flat out, I don't know why I'm so anxious, just simply walk out my front door. Like every time I have left my house since I moved out as a 16-year-old, I'm now 28, I stand by my front door for like 5 to 25 minutes. And I've had several points in my life when I would just stand there for ages and then go and sit back down and not go out because I just couldn't fucking do it. And I've gotten a lot better at it, because if I don't go out, I don't get food, I don't get fresh air, I don't get any sort of exercise. Like I need to. It's just me in this here house. But I still stand there for like a good little chunk of time, because opening my front door and stepping out and closing it behind me, it's fucking scary. It makes my heart race. It makes me get sweaty, and I couldn't tell you. I've never ever been able to tell you why. And every therapist I've had, every like mental health professional I've spoken to about it, has tried really hard to convince me that like I'm just being silly. It must be something that I'm scared of, and I'm worried about this, and I'm worried about that. And like I'm not. Oh, thanks, Otis. You stepped over me and I spilt my tea. But like I don't have a thing that I am worried about happening when I leave the house. I stand there, and the idea of leaving my house and like experiencing that change is fucking horrifying. And I step out and I close the door behind me, and I feel like I'm in a complete fight or flight. I feel like something has just happened, you know? It's not that I'm waiting for something, it's that I feel like something has just happened. The thing that I really want to focus on with this video is the fact that some of my anxiety does feel extremely illogical, and I cannot give a reason for it, and I don't know why. I think it does probably just boil down to I don't have the social imagination. I don't know what's going to happen when I step out my front door. I don't know what's going to happen when I go into Asda. All those types of things. I don't have the social imagination, even though I've experienced those things thousands of times. I don't feel like I can ever really conceptualise what it's going to be like. And that's terrifying. The unknown is scary, you know? What are you doing, Otis? He's just standing in places he's never stood before, and he seems confused about why it's happening to him, but he's the one doing it. He's going now. But one of the much bigger parts of my anxiety, and one of the ways in which a lot of my life has often been like driven by my anxiety, is that I do have lots of things that I'm scared of happening. So the big one, and the one that I really want to focus on because it was fucking massive and has definitely swayed the way that I feel about a lot of other things, was that I was really scared something bad would happen to my mother if I didn't go and see her every single day. And I got a therapist while I was going through that, a private one, the only time I've ever actually paid for therapy and been able to afford it. And she was like, okay, so we're just gonna have a day where you don't go and see her, and nothing's gonna happen, and you're gonna know that nothing happens when you don't go and see her. She doesn't get ill, nothing goes on wrong, like she isn't injured, she'll be fine. And I was like, okay, we're just gonna have one day where I don't go and see my mum. I had a girlfriend at the time, so I organised a little like double date night out with her. It was gonna be a lovely day. I had a lovely evening. About 10:30, I'm just about to see my girlfriend up on the bus to go home, and I get a phone call from my brother, and he's like, okay, well, I've rang around, she hasn't been to work, the car's still here but she's not here, she never leaves the house this late because she's normally in bed by now, there's something wrong. And I'm like, oh fuck, you know? So we ring around hospitals and we find out where she is, and we have a few days of her having all these tests done because they don't know what's wrong, and they keep saying it's a UTI, but it's clearly not a fucking UTI. She'd just shown up at hospital completely confused, didn't have a fucking clue who she was, none of it. 6 days later we find out that she has lung and bowel cancer, and it's metastasized. I don't know all the fucking proper terms. They told me them. I was busy, you know, being upset about my mum being diagnosed with cancer, but she had a brain tumour that had to be operated on pretty much immediately. So I think it was the day after or 2 days later, after like the full diagnosis, being sat in a room with the doctor being told like your ma's like fairly done for at this point, I have my next therapy session, and she's like, so how did it go? Did you have a day that you didn't go to see your mum? And I'm like, oh, I had a day when I didn't go to see my mum. And she's like, what happened? And I tell her what happened. And I could see on her face that she was just like, oh, fuck no. Like, what the fuck? You know, like a part of me is just like, it's the worst fucking coincidence, obviously. Like, I'm a logical person. I'm aware that like the universe isn't rooting against me. It's just an unfortunate coincidence that the one day I didn't go and see my mum is the one day that she ended up super confused because of the tumour in her brain. And obviously, like, there's also a much larger part of me that's being logical in the fact of like, she didn't develop cancer in a fucking day. You know, it's not my fault. It's not on me. It wasn't me. I know that. But also, I felt like I knew if I didn't go and see my mum every day, something horrible would happen to her. And on the day that I didn't, something did. Similarly, I hate getting public transport because I've had weird fucking shit happen to me on public transport. The first time I ever got on a bus in Liverpool, I was sat at the back with like my guitar bag and a little Primark bag because I'd done a wee little shopping trip, and some random woman came to the back and forced me to like take every item out of my bag and show it to her and show her my guitar and play some chords for her. And it was one of those, it felt like I was in high school all over again, just being someone's like little dancing performance entertainment monkey when I really fucking don't want to be, but I'm scared they're gonna like punch me in the face if I don't. I can't tell you how many times I've been sat on a bus or a train and I've had a man just sit down next to me and then put his hand straight up on my thigh as though we've been dating for the last 3 years. Dozens of times. I was having a meltdown behind Lime Street Station once, and a guy came and asked me for directions to a restaurant. So through my tears, through my meltdown, I gave them to him, and then he invited me for dinner while I was still like snot, meltdown, sobbing, crying. Like, it's these situations of like, yes, they're the ones that I'm worried about. I'm worried about them because they happened to me. These aren't things that I was scared of until they happened to me, for the most part. You know, like, obviously I had anxieties about my mum, but even prior to that point I had a lot of family issues. So it was the odd day that I didn't go and see her because I had something on, like if I had a doctor's appointment, if I was doing something with my partner's family, when we went on holiday, thing like that. And it was always those times that I would get back and I'd be like, so how were you? And she'd be like, oh, your brother. And she'd have, you know, it's one of those where I do think it was what was happening all the time anyway. But when I'd been away for a little bit, she just made it sound like her life was like so fucking horrible and miserable without me there, that I was like, oh, she has such a horrible time. You know, I already just felt so guilty about not seeing my mother every day, and felt like I was offering her like respite from the rest of her life or something. That like, I feel like that was what built this anxiety of not going to see her every single day, and I do think that was somewhat intentional on her behalf. So even with that, it does sort of feel like, well, if I don't go, she has a horrible day. If I don't go, something does happen to make her not feel good, which is exactly what I don't want my mum to be feeling like. You know, like, my entire life was set up towards trying to please her and make sure she was happy. And as well as having the times that I've actively gone against like the anxiety instinct, because like there's a lot of times that I know that it's just anxiety. I know that I'm just being anxious for no reason, but also I'm normally right. Like, I'm often anxious because that thing has happened to me. It's not some illogical, weird anxiety. It's not some, like, baseless, unfound fear. It's an anxiety and fear that I have because I've been through that thing before and it was fucking horrible, and I'd rather it didn't happen again. And especially when it comes to social situations, I've had so many therapists and, like, CBT therapy people and just, like, general mental health professionals tell me, like, oh, well, what's the worst that can happen when you talk to someone? What's the worst that can happen when you do this? What's the worst that can happen when you do this? And I'll be like, well, this, or this, or this, or that. And they want me to convince myself that it's a silly fear to have. And they're like, oh, well, why do you think that? And I'm like, because that's what happened last time I did that thing. Like, I'm basing my expectations on my past experiences. They're not some like weird unfounded fear that I don't need to be having. It's what has happened to me. It's what I have learned from my past experiences is what happens when you do that thing. And yes, I agree that it would be better if I could rewrite myself to not feel like I'm going to have the negative reaction every time I do a thing. But also, if you keep having the negative reaction when you do the thing, that is what you're going to expect. There are lots and lots of anxieties that I am able to just write off and work through. Like, I'm very, very anxious about terrorist attacks and being blown up, being shot at, being stabbed, like just some sort of act of terror happening when I'm at Comic-Con, when I go to concerts, when I'm out in public in some sort of crowd. There is the voice in the back of my mind that is like, that happens now. That is a thing that happens out in the world now. And you need to be careful, you need to watch out. And that's the type of anxiety where I'm like, I don't think it is completely unfounded. I think that we are living in a day and age where you are best off keeping a level of like awareness of your surroundings, paying attention to what's going on. I'm not going to let that ruin my day. I'm not going to not go and do the thing because there might be an attack of some sort, you know, like I'm still gonna go and do the thing unless there's like an actual fucking warning of some sort. I'm gonna go and do the thing because otherwise, like, it's probably not gonna happen. I have the awareness and the logical thought of being able to be like, it's probably not gonna happen, you know? Like, sure, it could, it might, like lots of things could and might happen. It's the ones that have happened to me previously that are actually making me severely anxious and making me feel unable to do things. I don't know how much any of this makes sense. My anxiety often feels like it doesn't really make sense. But also it does, because that's how I've experienced the world and the way that people have treated me and the way that things have been, you know? Like, I haven't had a therapist since I had my last big round of like social and relationship faux pas and trauma and just things going horribly wrong and feeling very vulnerable and used and very naive, and like I can't be a fucking person essentially. Like, I could absolutely do with a therapist now because I know that not everyone is a horrible person. I know that not everyone is going to be the experience of spending years building up a friendship, building a relationship, feeling like I've like found my family and everything's going so well, only to eventually end up looking at this person and think like, who the fuck are you? Because you're not the person I got to know. I don't know what the fuck's gone on here, but you're actually quite an asshole and quite a horrible person. And the fact that you say you're a nice person and say you're a good friend isn't lining up with your behaviour. And I'm very much at a point where like, I don't really want to get to know people. I don't really want to make new friendships. I have a few people online that I really like and really trust, and I'm like, these are good people. I don't really have any interest in growing any closer to any new people. I don't really, like, not to shit on the people that I do know, I do like you all, and like, I'm trying to let things happen naturally and be a person and be able to feel vulnerable with people and trust people and everything, but I also fucking do not trust people. And even with the people I actively like and I'm currently close with, I'm scared of getting closer to anybody. I don't want to get closer to anybody because people keep turning out to not be the people they fucking act like they are and tell me that they are. And I can't go through it again. It's been fucking horrible. I don't want to deal with that shit again. And I don't feel like I can tell, you know? Like, I don't know what's going on until the moment that it's going on. And as much as I know that not everyone is like that and that I am only like being detrimental towards myself by not building relationships and not building friendships and not going out to meet people and not allowing myself to feel like emotionally close to people, like I know all of it's a bad thing, but also I now have 25 fucking years of built up experiences of consistently like giving my all to people and turning around and being like, can you just be nice to me? Like, can you literally just like fucking be nice? Like, just try and pull your shit together a little bit to be a person and be nice to me. Yeah, like like I've just gotten so much whiplash from thinking that people are kind and thinking that people are good and believing things that people say, only to realise that I shouldn't have believed a word out of their lying little fucking mouth. And it's massively, massively damaged my ability to feel close to people and to feel like I can trust people. And it's based on my experiences, and I'm now just very, very anxious of being remotely vulnerable or close to anybody. I don't want to care about anybody because it just fucking hurts when you care about them and they're not the way that you thought they were. And the way they led you to believe as well. Like, it's not even like I just mistook things. It's like, you told me that I could take what you said at face value, so I did. And it was lies. Like, cool, okay. But just whether it's social or whether it's general life stuff, whether it's just leaving my house, whether it's getting onto public transport, like, I would say that a solid 75 to 80% of my anxieties are entirely based on the fact that I have experienced the thing. Like, the thing that I'm anxious about, I wasn't anxious about until it happened to me, and it was horrible. I didn't fucking like it, and I don't want it to happen again, and now I'm anxious about that thing. But I've also been building these things for my entire life, you know? And it's the type of thing that I absolutely do want fucking support and assistance with. I would love to not spend like 23 hours a day feeling extremely anxious about one thing or another. But the thing that it doesn't feel like anybody actually understands is that, like, it's not just a silly little anxiety. I'm not just a little bit nervous. It's built so incredibly strongly on the past experiences of me trying to like navigate the world and navigate social situations and trying to just navigate being a living human person, and repeatedly having situations where I'm like, I never want that to happen again, that was fucking horrible. And it seems to be situations that a lot of people and the therapists that I'm talking to and the mental health professionals genuinely cannot imagine happening to people, but it happened to me. This video has been a lot more rambly than I really wanted it to be. Sometimes I find it really easy and simple to like articulate my thoughts, and other times it's just a lot more difficult, and I find it really fucking hard to put my anxieties into words and really talk about my anxiety, because so much of it is just like I've got my like 20 to 25% of things where I'm like, it's illogical and silly and I feel fucking stupid for being anxious about it, but my body is anxious about it. I'm in fight or flight, I'm sweating, I'm just shaking, I'm scared, like I can't help it. And the other like 75 to 80% where I'm just like, well, it happened. Of course I'm fucking anxious about it. Like, that's what happened to me. It is now implanted as a very plausible possible thing because it happened to me. I'd love to be able to just tell myself, well, it's never happened before, so it's not going to happen now. But it has happened before, so it could happen now. Yeah, maybe this was more of a rant than a ramble, but I'm done now. As always, I'd love to know what you think about this in the comments. I'd love to know if you have similar experiences. I know I know some of the topics here are kind of dark and heavy, but like, that's life, innit? Deal with it. So, you can also find me over on TikTok, Blue Sky or Instagram. You can also help me out via Ko-fi or Patreon if you wanted to. If you join me on Patreon, you also get access to the Discord. That's a really fun place. And he's here, so I will show you him. I'm not entirely sure when he came back. I don't mind. Can I make this easier for myself in any way? Oh, we can. There we go. Here's the boy. Okay, so whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year. And we will see you again in a couple of days, won't we, little oat boy? My little oat boat, my little oat potato. Oh, I can't go just yet. He's just so cute. He's just so baby. I just think you all need to see him because he's perfect. I love him so much. Okay, bye.